Carl Jung's core idea was that every person needs to bring together the different, often conflicting parts of their mind into a single, balanced whole. One of his most famous ideas is the shadow, the hidden side of ourselves that contains our repressed desires, fears, and impulses. These buried parts of ourselves don't just disappear. They may act unconsciously, shaping our behavior in ways we often don't realize. Most people might say, "Hey, Max, I don't have a dark side. I'm just a normal, happy person." But Jung believed that denying the inner shadow keeps us from truly understanding ourselves. Without confronting it, we can't reach genuine self-awareness or psychological growth. Jung writes, "Anything that is concealed is a secret. The maintenance of secrets acts like a psychic poison which alienates their possessor from the community. It then splits off from consciousness as an independent complex to lead a separate existence in the unconscious, where it can be neither corrected nor interfered with by the conscious mind. The complex is thus an autonomous portion of the psyche, which develops a peculiar fantasy life of its own. This is bad. We do not want pieces of ourselves acting autonomously. We want to be cognizant of even the most repressed aspects of ourselves, eventually becoming a unified individual." Now, another form of concealment is the act of withholding, usually emotions which are being withheld. You can imagine the scene in a movie where the employee is looking at the boss, the music starts to race, and the boss gets punched in the face or thrown out the window, only for the music to cut, the scene to come back to reality, and the employee walks away, not saying anything to the boss. Obviously, you shouldn't punch your boss in the face, but you do need to be honest with yourself and how you're feeling about how your life is going in order to become the best version of yourself. The emotion withheld tends to isolate and disturb us quite as much as the unconscious secret, and is equally guilt-laden. In the long run, nothing is more unbearable than a tepid harmony in personal relations brought about by withholding emotion. Jung posits genuine confession as a cure. It is only with the help of confession that I'm able to throw myself into the arms of humanity, freed at last from the burden of moral exile. This is one example of Jung insightfully identifying a problem, or a disease of the mind, laying out its contents, its mechanisms, and then finally positing a way to absolve the problem. Consciousness and the relationship we have with our minds is one of the things we all have in common. Most do not treat it as something to be worked at, let alone studied. Jung, on the other hand, took it seriously, how the mind operates, and sought to provide historical context and practical advice in the form of psychiatry to help people deal with their mental disturbances. This is a genuine service of goodwill to the world. He first realized that the mind was a strange place when he felt two autonomous aspects of his psyche, or personality, working inside himself at the same time, an old wise man and a modern young boy. At 16, a little later on, Carl discovered some important philosophers, particularly Kant, Schopenhauer, and Goethe. Jung was interested in Kant's theories of knowledge, the distinction between the known, or phenomenal, and the unknown, noumenal, or things in themselves, in addition to the mind's innate structures. A Reddit user sums up Kant's perspective clearly. Objectively examining one's own thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and certainties is really challenging, as it requires viewing our subjective experiences with an impartial or objective perspective. Robert Moore calls this our chronic subjectivity. You basically are stuck in your own head, and you can't see yourself clearly. Still, we must persevere. This paradox of self-reference is something I've made videos about before that I can link to in the description. I would go so far as to posit that this realization is a foundational step on your journey to self-discovery, likely happening in your teenage years. I, for one, was hit particularly hard by this realization, in conjunction with the realization that the mind is filter and that the world we perceive is not the true world, or rather it is only one of many true worlds. Jung's psychiatric work was steeped in parapsychology, dreams, and myth analysis, all aimed at mapping the hidden structure of the mind. When Freud's interpretation of dreams appeared in 1900, Jung felt as though someone had opened a door to the same underground world he had been glimpsing since childhood. Although dream analysis might seem trite now, in the 19th century, scientific and medical thought dismissed dreams almost entirely. Many scholars view dreams as meaningless noise, the jumbled firings of neurons during sleep, and therefore unworthy of serious consideration. Even as a young psychiatrist, Jung refused to draw a clean line between science and myth. He kept a skull on his desk, carved small figures of gods, and filled his notebook with fantasies. He was a pretty weird dude, to be honest. To his colleagues, he seemed eccentric, but Jung believed that what science called irrational behavior or thought was simply unexamined. Within every dream or delusion was a symbolic truth trying to speak. He was, as one biographer put it, a scientist haunted by spirits. We talked about Goethe having a strong influence on Jung, and we see that really clearly. Jung writes, I regard my work on alchemy as a sign of my inner relationship to Goethe. Goethe's secret was that he was in the grip of that process of archetypal transformation, which has gone on through the centuries. He regarded his Faust as his opus magnum. He called it his main business, and his whole life was enacted within the framework of this drama. Again, Jung writes, I myself am haunted by the same dream, and from my 11th year I've been launched upon a single enterprise, which is my main business. My life has been permeated and held together by one idea and one goal, namely to penetrate into the secret of the personality. Everything can be explained from this central point, and all my work relates to this one theme, the penetration into the secret of the personality. That is Jung, as he writes it, his central point, which all of his works relate to. I mean, I can't not relate this to the Founders podcast, in which basically David Senra says, pick one idea and follow it relentlessly. Jung clearly exemplifies this, and is probably the reason why he's one of the most important psychologists and philosophers of all time. This book being discussed, Faust, had a large impact on Jung, who saw it as a representation in fiction of many of his theories. The book follows a man who takes a deal with the devil, or Mephistopheles. The story begins with Faust rejecting pure rational knowledge as empty and insufficient, as he has mastered all fields of study but still feels empty. This resonated with Jung, who saw his own work as a rejection of purely scientific, materialist approaches to the psyche in favor of a deeper, more spiritual understanding of the human condition. Jung also says the main characters such as Mephistopheles, Faust, and Gretchen are representations of his core archetypes, the shadow, ego, and persona, respectively. That was a short biography on Jung, as well as some of his key ideas, but one idea of Jung's that has always gone over my head was this idea of complexes. I've never understood what a complex was. Carl Jung's concept of a complex refers to a cluster of emotionally charged thoughts, memories, and images that operate mostly outside of conscious awareness. These complexes have a strong emotional tone, can influence a person's attitudes and behaviors, and can even feel like an animated foreign body within the individual. How Jung discovered complexes was through word association tests that revealed how some patients' reactions to certain words and phrases were completely peculiar and illogical. They would be accompanied by delays, stammering, and emotional outbursts. This led him to conclude that a specific, emotionally charged cluster of associations was interfering with the patient's conscious mind. This is either the same or a parallel idea of what we spoke about at the beginning, pertaining to the dreadful keeping of a secret that isolates us from society. The goal in Jungian psychology is not to eliminate complexes, but to make them conscious and integrate them. By bringing these clusters of memories and feelings into awareness, a person can begin to understand their emotional patterns and lessen the complex's influence. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is, the more control it has over you. If an inferiority is conscious, one always has a chance to correct it, but if it's repressed, it will never get to be corrected. Going back to the beginning, let me restate that initial line. Jung's most foundational belief is the importance of integrating the broken psyche into a functional whole. This is not something that most people think about, but I trust Carl Jung much more than I trust the advice of the random person, and agree that there is an aspect of unification that you have to conduct within yourself. You have different voices in your head trying to pull you in one direction or the other, and this is actually practically helpful advice. You're going to be a more streamlined, simpler, calmer person if you don't have a million different voices in your head pulling yourself in a million different directions. If you can have a multifaceted but unified outlook on the world, I think that will overall lead for a better life, and this is what Jung posits as the ultimate goal of the individual's life, is to become themselves, and the only way to become yourself is to know yourself, and the only way to know yourself is really to do the work. It's to journal, it's to read, it's to meditate, and really be patient. Realize that you're not perfect, and work on being honest and open with yourself as often as possible. This has been a short episode of Max Step. I hope you enjoyed. If we have any new listeners, please leave a review. I hope to do more of these soon. I'm really passionate about psychology, technology, philosophy, history, and important ideas, really, all in the service of becoming the best version of ourselves, which of course is subjugated in the service of helping the world. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.